Hey there, welcome to the first of the TBH with TB Hemingway, that's me, Substack podcasts, where we digest the month's stories from my Substack. That's a weekly Substack I publish. You can subscribe for free at tbhemingway.substack.com, where you'll get a story every week and a little drawing in your inbox, all by me. That's right. I'm doing all this in my tiny office. So I hope you like it, because sometimes, when you're doing this, it's hard to know. This month, June, snuck up on me, got real busy. Also, kind of warm. We were traveling, kids were finishing school, my wife was away a lot. Man, oh man. Anyway, we got it done. 4 stories, sort of. The first one is just a bit of a wrap-up of things I've been into lately. But I hope you enjoy them all. And look out for more coming your way. And you can subscribe to these podcasts if you like to listen to the stories at your favourite provider. And I hope you enjoy it and keep coming back. Let's get on with it. A few things from June 6, 2024. Amongst other ongoing artistic and general life pursuits, at present, I'm frantically trying to edit a manuscript before the school summer break descends upon our house, like the sweaty, time-sucking, days-long random excursion monster that it is. I'm bad at setting goals. Is anyone out there good at it? I think it's an American trait I never fully developed, but I'm really trying to reach this one. As such, I haven't had much time to write here, so this week I thought I would simply share a few things that have kept me sane in the meantime. I hope this finds you better than well. The first is a collection of poems by Martin Espada called Floaters. I try to be good about reading much of the work in the poetry journal that lands on my doorstep monthly. I flick through a lot, but every now and then one stops me in my tracks. Espada had a poem in there last year, incredibly inspiring, and I still think about it all the time. He writes narrative poems, my favourite kind, and infuses them with a universal sense of social consciousness that feels completely natural and incredibly human. I'll put a link here where you can find the one that I read in poetry, and also a link where you can check out his fine collection, Floaters, which I'm about halfway through. The next thing I wanted to share is a podcast about the War on Drugs, Lost in the Dream album. I love the War on Drugs, and recently stumbled upon the podcast episode. It's by their label, commemorating 10 years since the release of their album, Lost in the Dream. All in all, it's too long and has weird pauses throughout, but if you're a big fan like me, I think you'll find this podcast episode really rewarding, in an unexpected, hypnotic way. Like you're just hanging out with the band, smoking weed, and chatting and watching TV or playing video games, which seems to be a major component of how this classic album was made. Walking through the fog of band members' distant conversations, you occasionally trip on something quite profound, just like in their music. The last thing is Northern Exposure reruns on Amazon Prime. I'm working toward writing something long about this show and the experience of rewatching it. But for the meantime, I just wanted to give any old Northern Exposure fans like me out there the heads up that this 90s show is finally available again. I was searching for years. No reruns, no DVDs, nothing. Something about song licensing hang-ups kept it off the air for decades, apparently. Amazon is inescapable in many of our modern lives, and we all know the pitfalls. But sometimes it reminds me of the classic line from Dumb and Dumber. Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this, and totally redeem yourself. Well done, Amazon. For just a taste, here's an unexpected episode-ending montage backed by Willie Nelson's Hands on the Wheel, which recounts Holling and Morris's disastrous attempts to transport and bury the body of an old companion in the remote Alaskan woods. The link's there in the copy. Lucky, from June 13th, 2024. We found a stray kitten in the backyard this weekend, and even after my wife, teary-eyed for its fate, left a saucer of milk and a blanket out, it kept desperately mewing all night, high-pitched and helpless, at just the right tone to put a parent on edge and wake me at sunrise. I've written about the local cats and our distant relationship here before, and I still tend to let them do their own thing out in the yard. A kitten is new, though. This one seemed particularly hopeless. The kids grew curious, my wife still worried. I was pessimistic about its fate, and figured the animal kingdom could handle it, but the mewing soon penetrated my heart. We captured the kitten, lost it, captured it again, and on the advice of neighbours more familiar with the local strays, I called the city's animal control department for help. Then lost and captured it once more. It was exhausted and fading fast. So was I. Before the experts could come to pick it up, the kid's grandparents, cat people, set their hearts on adoption. They began looking into local vets who might treat the kitten's gummed-up eye and any other inevitable ailments we couldn't see. If it lives, you should call it lucky, I suggested. Would the kitten make it through? Early reports from the animal hospital were mixed. Its rehabilitation is now ongoing, and it's already given my mother-in-law a nasty infection. The kids have questions. Mortality is on our minds. Yet life marches on, and it's kindergarten graduation day today. The principal traded his sweatshirt and slacks for a bone-white suit and talked to us like elementary schoolers. Reliable material. He got a few laughs. My daughter stood up there, in the back row on account of her height, before a wall of long gold tinsel threads, beaming, shifting her new dress back and forth with her hips. She belted out the song they'd prepared, exuberantly executed her choreographed hand actions, then was given a small certificate, her name printed across it in bold blue letters, shaped like impossible handwriting. Then the stage was empty again, ready for the next lot. Outside she was emotional and couldn't find the words to tell me why. My son's kindergarten graduation was via video conference thanks to the pandemic. I had no idea what to expect live. It was a lot. They didn't do this when I was in kinder, or prep as it were. Not that I remember. Looking around, I soon realised I should have brought flowers or a gift. Cell phones were raised everywhere I turned. Mine too. Mum is out of town. I needed to get this in the can. People can take so many photos these days, so easily, that it never stops. Countless snapshots dictated the rhythm pulsing through the throng, punctuating the nervous energy of kids and parents alike. My daughter hugged her teacher, then the assistant, with a warmth I only recall having for a 5th grade teacher after he died. Photos followed hugs, of course, then more with friends. One had captured her mother's phone and posed the other girls like a pro, snapping, "Look at the camera." It all felt to me like trying to stand upright in waist-high surf, being pulled one way and another, up and down. I wanted to remember this before the swell won out, so I asked my daughter, "Can I get a photo?" "I don't want to," she said quietly, scanning the crowd. "For me, though?" She acquiesced. Eventually an ordinary school bell rang, breaking the reverie, and we all came back up to the surface. My daughter asked what the bell was for. "You tell me," I said, but she was on to the next thing already. Last night in the car, coming from another graduation celebration on the way to get her brother, my daughter asked me what they do with the ashes when someone dies. I said it depends. She can bury mine. She insisted she wants to keep some in a locket. "Okay," I said, a little creeped out. Then she asked me how we would bury her. Her young life flashed before my eyes. "I'm not burying you," I said emphatically. "I'll be long gone, I hope." We all made it home in one piece, washed up, went through the usual routine, and before bed my daughter and I talked about her outfit for the big ceremony. Now I'm back at my desk, and she is in class, I presume, listening carefully to a teacher whose car she loves to spot in the school parking lot and intends to invite to her next birthday party. 2 more days until summer break returns, when thoughts will slowly move to a whole new school year. I wonder now if, and when, I'll ever go to a kinder graduation again. Maybe when I'm a grandfather, if I'm lucky. A Fish in the Ocean from June 20th, 2024. A quick editorial note. This one was recorded while we're on the road, under a comforter, using my iPhone. So I hope you don't mind the different sound quality. We're in Guadalajara, Mexico for the week, while the kids take part in a cultural exchange at a local school, and already onto our second Airbnb apartment. The first, unbeknownst to me when I booked it from Los Angeles, was on the ground floor in a busy bar district. Arriving on a hot Saturday evening, I wasn't surprised to hear the sound of weekend revellers. Then, on Sunday afternoon, when I walked onto the patio after breakfast and heard Sweet Dreams Are Made of This blasting through the wall, I knew we might be in trouble beyond just a rowdy Saturday night. Sure enough, that night's music was best described as aggressive and even louder. Upon researching its source, I found that we were directly next door to a bar called El Chacal, the Jackal, which wasn't even supposed to be open on Sundays. It looked like the kind of place bad guys use as an office in movies, treating the slimy owner like a baby brother. Not my kind of place. I tend to go into survival mode in such situations. I closed all the windows and doors of the apartment, stripped the bed down to just a top sheet in preparation for stifling heat, squeezed a pair of fluorescent complementary bedside earplugs into our daughter's ears, and readied myself for some fitful sleep. My wife is a little more realistic. When she turned from her reading and looked at me, I removed one earplug to hear her say, "You just don't get any quiet time." She was right. I booked a new place the next day. Now I'm stuck with the agony of trying to decide how to review the first apartment. I'd like to suggest Airbnb decommission it, and the owners seek out some diabolical Stanford University lab looking to research the effects of extreme heat and stupidly loud commercial bunda music on the brains of young American families. But I fear the ensuing repercussions online from that sort of honesty. The daily drive to school has been a more anticipated, fun challenge. Each morning and afternoon we cross from one side of town to the other, forcing me to navigate the city's most enormous traffic circle a minimum of 4 times. Centred, somewhat inexplicably, by a statue of the Roman goddess Minerva, fountains spray exultantly all around her, dousing the surrounding blue agave plants. More lanes than I can count crisscross rapidly as you turn at seemingly improvised intervals. I have a mantra when I drive in Mexico. "You're a fish in the ocean. You're a fish in the ocean," I say to myself quietly, whenever the faintly marked traffic lanes dissolve into little more than a theoretical concept. A honk here, a wave there, and generally that gets me through without incident. Yesterday, coming back past Minerva, on my way to a much quieter Airbnb with the kids, I was feeling better about my parenting, and in particular my driving. "I think I'm getting the hang of this roundabout thing, don't you, kids?" I said. "Well," replied my 6-year-old daughter from the back seat, "you didn't say, 'Hold on, guys, I just need to concentrate.' So, yeah." Faint praise, but I'll take it. Maybe she should write the review. This week there's a bonus book excerpt. It has occurred to me on this trip that it's 7 whole years since we last came to Mexico as a family, with just our son and his sister still in my wife's belly. Too long. I wrote about that trip and the new work it inspired in the introduction to my most recent book, a collection of pieces that began life as Instagram posts called Red Sun, Dandelions and Other Stories. It's still available to purchase from my site. Just hit the link. Thanks to all those who've already picked up a copy. It really helps me keep this whole operation going. So here's an excerpt from the book's introductory essay. In early 2017, my wife and I learned that she was pregnant with our daughter. Shortly after the news had settled in and the usual childbearing discomforts had begun for her, we took our son to Mexico for Easter vacation. He was just 3 years old, curious and energetic. We chose a small farm outside Todos Santos on the Pacific coast of Baja, California, somewhere to keep him busy while we might try to relax. Our lodgings were a cottage the owners rented out to subsidise the land's modest agricultural production. Farm workers came and went. My son fed horses and was excited to ride one on the beach. A pond was home to countless hungry ducks, and each night as the wildlife settled down, we could hear huge, relentless waves slamming onto the shore over the dunes just steps away. I'd spent the previous half-decade or so moving further from my once active career as a musician and songwriter, having found myself more drawn to staying at home than touring, and by then I was the proprietor of my second retail store at our neighbourhood. Now, on those warm spring evenings in Mexico, away from the stress of work, while my wife tried to settle our son into bed and calm nerves brought on by his recent potty training and bedwettings, I would sit on the porch and wait for her to join me, sipping tequila and listening to music low enough not to disturb bedtime. It paints a pretty picture, I know. We were full of life, as John Fante once put it. Inside me, though, something else was growing, uncomfortably. You can read on and order the book from the link on the TBH Substack. How to Fight a Viking and Almost Win, from June 27th, 2024. I rented a car earlier in the year with a company I'll just call Hertz for the sake of this story. The lovely person at Hertz in Atlanta took my credit card for security purposes, or whatever reason it is that people at tall desks always do that. When I got home from my trip, I discovered that they'd charged me for the best, most complete insurance available, something I would never buy. Ever since, I've been trying to get in touch with people at the car rental company, let's just keep calling them Hertz, to get my money back. I've been assured, reassured, hung up on and lied to multiple times. Eventually I told my credit card provider that it was a fraudulent charge. Now Hertz has sent me to collections. Here we go again. The collections agency appears to be a hidden division of Hertz. I'll just refer to them as, Viking Client Services LLC to keep this simple. Isn't that the kind of organisation name one simply dreads having any correspondence with? Which client are they servicing exactly? I don't think it's me. And when did anything ever go smoothly with a Viking involved? Could they have thought of a better name to illustrate the little guy getting screwed? Fighting this charge has come to feel like my full-time job. I don't know about you, but I have a very hard time letting these sorts of injustices go. My moral village is under siege. Logically, I realise that I've already wasted more time on this than is equivalent to the charge owed. I could have made more money flipping burgers over the wasted hours. But I just can't let these bastards win. Not that easily anyway. My family stayed in a house via a vacation rental company. I'll just call it Airbnb for now, over spring break. After all was said and done, glowing reviews had been shared and school was back in session. The host claimed $500 in made-up damages to the property. It was complete bullshit. I knew it, he knew it, but the question of whether or not Airbnb would realise it plagued me for weeks. Stilted emails from Airbnb came in now and then, ensuring a just resolution. I wrote impassioned replies, which in turn spawned near-human responses. The deadline for their resolution came and went, with no official word. I assumed the truth had won out, the fraud was realised, but I longed for exoneration. Eventually one more tepid email arrived, explaining that the matter had been settled in my favour. The item requested wasn't eligible under Airbnb's host damage protection terms, so we won't be pursuing payment from you. Is that it? I wondered to no one. Can't you admit that I won? Will this jerk, John I'll call him, which really does sound made up, still be allowed to host a dozen or so Airbnbs in the Flagstaff area with zero repercussions? Am I not eligible for some kind of damages? Apparently not. He's still on the platform. As we move into the new world of our AI overlords, I worry more and more about this kind of situation. It's already nearly impossible to get a human from a massive corporation on the phone, and even when you do, you can hear that they've had the blood drained out of their hearts. After all, they work for the bastards and endure their cruelty every day. No wonder they're low on empathy. As I hurl my pleas down the phone line to wherever they may reside, customer service specialists pause. They thank me for my patience or understanding, even when I'm showing none, and stick to the script. I assume they're human, but how could one really tell? Every now and then I ask, and the facade cracks ever so slightly, before they quietly carry out the commands of their employer all the same. It's torture. Just imagine what a robot Viking will be like. Hey, you made it. Thanks very much for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to the Substack if you haven't already. That's at tbhemingway.substack.com. There I publish a story weekly. You get the written version, the audio versions you've just heard, and a little drawing by me too. All the music you're hearing is either by my old band, Horse Stories, which you can find on the evil streaming services, or just me noodling around in the tiny office on the guitar. Thanks again for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast too if you like to hear the stories rather than read them. And, well, I'll talk to you next month.